Direct News TV. October 20, 2023. Israel-Gaza War Live, Hamas releases 2 American captives from Gaza. Humanitarian groups raise concern over Israel's order to evacuate Al-Quds Hospital, which is sheltering hundreds of civilians. U.S. President Joe Biden says Israel should delay ground invasion of Gaza to secure release of more captives, after Hamas releases 2 Americans. The U.S. and EU have noted the deteriorating humanitarian crisis in Gaza, but stopped short of calling for a ceasefire. Israel proceeds with its bombing campaign as a possible ground invasion looms. At least 4,137 Palestinians have been killed in Israeli strikes on Gaza since Hamas's October 7 attack inside Israel, which killed more than 1,400 people. White House backtracks on Biden's ground offensive comments. The U.S. is walking back Biden's earlier comment, 011, in which he appeared to say that he wanted a ground invasion of Gaza delayed to secure the release of more captives. The White House now says that Biden misheard the question, according to Reuters, and thought that the question being asked was about whether he wanted to see more captives released, hence his reply in the affirmative. Biden wants Israel to delay invasion to secure release of more captives. President Biden has given a further indication of the efforts apparently being made by the U.S. to get Israel to delay a ground invasion of the besieged Gaza Strip to secure the release of more captives being held in the enclave. Replying to a reporter asking him whether Israel should delay, Biden said yes. Biden's comments chime with an earlier report published by Bloomberg, which said the U.S., along with European governments, was attempting to persuade Israel to not enter Gaza until more talks were held to win the release of civilian captives. The report said that Hamas was willing to release some of the civilians captured on October 7, and representatives of the group have said as much publicly. Bloomberg added that Israel has agreed under U.S. pressure to hold off. However, Israel is continuing its fierce bombardment of the Gaza Strip and thousands of Israeli troops remain massed at the Israeli frontier with the enclave. People are really afraid of facing the same fate as what happened at the Al-Ali hospital where a massacre took place. The Al-Ali Arab Hospital was a shelter for more than 1,000 Palestinians who were evacuated from their houses and they thought it was going to be safe. Al-Quds Hospital, right now, is facing the same situation similar to before Al-Ali Hospital was bombarded by Israeli airstrikes. But this time, Al-Quds Hospital is much more overcrowded with people. There are thousands of Palestinians in the corridors and surrounding areas, and even inside the basement. It has turned into a mass shelter for displaced Palestinians. After receiving orders from Israeli occupation authorities to evacuate Al-Quds Hospital, the administration, medical workers, even patients there, have refused to evacuate simply because medical teams are trying to provide treatment for pregnant women, elderly people, and young children injured by Israeli strikes. If people are evacuated from this hospital, they have nowhere else to go. Everywhere in Gaza City has been bombarded by Israeli aircraft. If they move to southern areas of Gaza, even those areas are witnessing massive bombardments similar to any other area inside the Gaza Strip. Biden suggests Hamas's attack aimed to disrupt Israeli-Saudi normalization. Biden has suggested Hamas's attack on Israel that killed hundreds of people on October 7 was aimed at disrupting U.S.-led efforts to establish formal diplomatic ties between Israel and Saudi Arabia. One of the reasons Hamas moved on Israel, they knew that I was about to sit down with the Saudis, Biden said, according to the Reuters news agency. The Biden administration had prioritized so-called normalization between Israel and Arab states in its Middle East policy independently of the Palestinian issue. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has previously said that Palestinians must not have a veto over such normalization deals. But many had warned that there can be no lasting stability in the region without resolving the conflict by establishing a viable Palestinian state. No architecture for regional security and development can stand over the burning ashes of this conflict, Jordan's King Abdullah told the UN in September. During the last hour, bombardments have taken place in southern areas inside the Gaza Strip, specifically in the Rafah district in a refugee camp. According to the Palestinian Ministry of Health inside the Gaza Strip, about 16 Palestinians were killed in the latest attacks and more than 20 were wounded. Norwegian doctor decries order to evacuate Al-Quds hospital. Mads Gilbert, a renowned Norwegian doctor and humanitarian, has decried the Israeli order to evacuate Al-Quds hospital in Gaza. "It's absolutely an incomprehensible, stupid, impossible thing to do," he said in a voice message posted online. "But I tell you, they have been bombing around Al-Quds hospital for the last few nights, and the Israelis are very upset that they can't empty the hospitals because they probably stand in the way of a carpet bombing of the whole of Gaza City." Gilbert called on people to mobilize their politicians to protect the hospital. Biden speaks with released U.S. citizens. Biden has spoken with the 2 Americans who were released by Hamas. The president just completed a call with the 2 Americans released today after being taken hostage by Hamas during the horrific terrorist assault against Israel, the White House said in a statement. He relayed that they will have the full support of the U.S. government as they recover from this terrible ordeal. Biden said earlier that he was overjoyed by the release of Judith Ronan, 59, and her daughter, Natalie Ronan. A recap of the latest developments in the war. It is the early hours of Saturday throughout the Middle East. We are tracking several developments, including the continued Israeli bombing of Gaza and efforts to bring aid into the Palestinian territory from the Rafah crossing with Egypt. If you are joining us now, here's a recap of the latest news. Hamas releases 2 U.S. citizens in its custody, a move that was welcomed by President Joe Biden, as 10 Americans remain unaccounted for. The release was mediated by Qatar. Amnesty International has released a report accusing Israel of violating international law, attacking civilian objects and wiping out entire families in Gaza. The Palestine Red Crescent Society says Israel has demanded the evacuation of Al-Quds hospital, which is sheltering thousands of displaced civilians in Gaza City. Former U.S. Congressman Justin Amash says several of his relatives were killed in the Israeli attack on the St. Porphyrius Orthodox Church in Gaza, which left 18 people dead. In a joint statement following talks in Washington, D.C., the U.S. and EU say they are concerned by the deteriorating humanitarian crisis in Gaza, but stopped short of calling for a ceasefire. Humanitarian assistance is yet to cross into Gaza through the Rafah crossing despite U.S. assurances that it reached a deal with Israel and Egypt to secure aid delivery. My name is Kingsley. Please like, share, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can be the first to be notified whenever we post. You won't regret it.